here was the explanation from Mr Lammy after it was highlighted to him by Conservative Bob Blackman that he, Mr Lammy, had forgotten to put on his poppy.
I bought a new suit this morning because my godmother said she would be watching. But his question brings to mind the West Indies Regiment and their contribution in 2 world wars. And I'm very grateful to the Honourable Member for Sunderland South for ensuring that despite wearing a new suit, I've managed to put my poppy on. We wear the poppy to remember all those who fought and died for this country. They represented every walk of life, every race and every religion.
Now, of course, we wear it so we will remember or we will never forget. But he forgot to put one on. How crucial is it? Or has it now become, and there are, as ever, I have to say, stories about some broadcasters who've decided or declined to wear a poppy. Is there a degree of what I understand is referred to sometimes as poppy fascism, or is it something that you should ensure you do? Let's bring into the conversation former Welsh Guardsman, Falklands War veteran Simon Weston, who joins me now. Obviously, you're a veteran yourself, sir. How important do you think it is for politicians to wear poppies, or are they effectively just doing it as almost as part of a performance? Morning, Simon.
Morning, Nick. It does get to the point where you think that it is the one time in the year where they care about veterans and the sacrifice. It sends out a broader message, really. I mean, if people are going to be so indifferent about wearing it, why would we need the military to sacrifice themselves in so many peacekeeping roles, in so many humanitarian roles? But the people who show indifference tend to be the ones who only ever focus on the armed side of life, where people have to go and rescue people who can't save themselves in armed conflict. It seems to be that people just want to cherry pick the bits and the causes that they feel that they can virtue signal on.
Simon, blokes and women like you who are brave enough to serve Queen or King and country, how do they view politicians wearing the poppy? And how do they view folk who decide, no, I don't want to wear it, it's a kind of fascism? Simon?
Well, ultimately, that's why we serve and we do our job, is to give people the right of the freedom of choice. But we never see politicians as military people. Veterans hardly ever see them at all, except on the 11th or around Remembrance Sunday. The people who don't want to wear it, to be honest with you, don't wear it, but don't give us your pathetic reasons for not wearing it. We're not interested. You know, you have your opinion, and good. We fought for you to be able to keep that opinion. But as far as the politicians are concerned, like I say, we largely only ever see them once a year, and it's only because it's a popularist thing to do. We look at Remembrance Sunday parades. We had Mr Corbyn never did his tie-up, almost had to be dragged screaming and kicking to wear a poppy, but he did it purely out of political expediency. Veterans and service people aren't fooled. We're not conned, but sadly, lots of the British public can be.
Lastly, Simon, I haven't spoken to you for some time, but I know you've been outspoken about how some former veterans from the Northern Ireland conflict are being dragged before the courts, and you might be aware that it would appear a gentleman in his late 70s, a former paratrooper, could possibly be facing court action, and that it was revealed earlier this week. A word on that, if you would, Simon Weston.
Look, people in ivory towers have been voicing opinions, been going back, and largely this administration has wanted to do this for a long time. They've always wanted to pound a British veteran, and yet we are not seeing any of the people who perpetrated the crimes over there that killed British service people, killed police, killed civilians. They let them all out of prison, as some of them didn't do any time. They were given a free ride. To me, chasing the veterans now and trying to make sense of the situation and the pressures people were put under, what we've got to remember is in the early 70s and the late 60s, the training to be over there in this situation that the British military found themselves was not that great. And for situations to go beyond sense and normality, and ones which were controlled by the officers very well, weren't always there. And I'm not judging the service people on the ground or anybody else. What I'm saying is situations were created that people weren't ready for. And when I went there, we had much, much greater training, and we never saw these incidents. But then again, what we don't see is anybody, and there's clear camera footage of the individuals dragging the two soldiers out of the taxi or out of the car,
yes,
stripping them off and beating them to death and then shooting them. And there's clear film footage, but not one of those has been prosecuted. So, you know, we actually have the pictorial evidence of that. When are we going to equate justice to the law?
Simon, always enjoy speaking with you. Be well. Thank you, Simon. Simon Weston, former Welsh Guardsman and Falklands War veteran, 13 after 8. Let's get a possibly a balancing view from journalist, columnist for The Guardian, broadcaster Zoe Williams, who joins me now. Zoe, can I start by asking, do you wear a poppy? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Actually, listening to Simon has made me think there's one thing I really agree with him on, which is, like, everybody can make this decision and nobody has to ram it down anybody else's throat. So I would never say poppy refuseniks should, like, go on a poppy refusing march. But I think that's not what they do.
What should they do then?
Well, okay, so I'm just going to do a brief history of the poppy, which we never used to get this aerated about. It was like, it's only about 10 or 15 years ago that politicians and the media class basically started getting really hysterical about whether you were wearing a poppy, how large your poppy was, how soon you started to wear it ahead of Remembrance Day. You know, it became a real site of political self-valorization and a statement of intent. I'm the kind of person who has this gigantic poppy. And then people like Louise Mensch started replacing their head with a giant poppy on Twitter. It became, and I think the reason some people who won't wear a poppy objected to that is that it basically elided militarism and patriotism. So you couldn't be a patriot, unless you were prepared to laud war as the signal moment in a nation's proud history. So then some people started to wear a white poppy, which didn't kind of catch on, because that was never the point. It's meant to be a sort of quiet personal reflection. It's not meant to be a red team, white team war.
How big a story, or is it no story at all, when you see David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, forgetting to wear a poppy yesterday?
The thing is, I mean, I admire and David Lammy and think he's a decent person on some things, but wasn't that just typical that he starts to lecture everybody on the importance of a poppy when the only reason anybody's talking about is that he's not wearing one? It's just absolutely crystallizes what people don't like about politicians.
Zoe Williams, thank you as ever, journalist, broadcaster, columnist for The Guardian, appearing here.